give you a heads up. That's good. I appreciate it. It's 9:30. I'll call the meeting to order. Let the record show all three commissioners are present. Our first order of business is, I guess, an update, beginning conversation with our newly minted code compliance officer.
Mr. Chairman, your fiscal manager also is going to address budgets as far as the code compliance.
Okay. Well, we'll start with that first.
Let's get that stuff out of the way.
Yeah. Always nice to
You want to figure out how we
we're gonna pay for it all.
Right.
Everything has a budget component.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Happy Tuesday, everybody.
Yes. Here's hoping.
Well, at least our humor is intact for
Yes.
today. So since Lynn started this week, we had to come up with some numbers to get the budget right, go into the end of the year. There was funds already budgeted for wages and benefits. So that part was at least easy enough. And that amount that's been budgeted is adequate to get through the end of the year. But Lynn's gonna need some office supplies, and he does have a cell phone with the PA's office. I did confirm that amount with Janet this morning. So I was able to budget that accurately there.
Which number is that?
His cell phone is $50 a month, roughly. So my proposal, and I just spoke with Lynn about this, sorry, for just now, sorry, Lynn, but $1,000 reduced from the admin building inspection supplies to move down to the compliance supplies, 200 of the communications, 1,000 of the travel, because Lynn budgets her training under travel. So we just moved that down to miscellaneous for any training that Lynn might need. And then the IF supplies, $1,600. That's actually fuel from Public Works pumps. But I just kind of guessed at maybe he might be using about $400 a month for the first few months here, but we can kind of,
Who knows?
Who knows?
Find out.
We can adapt to.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm.
shooting in the dark, that's,
Yeah.
But that would be just to get through the end of the year here, and we've already discussed 2022.
Yeah.
Good with that. I can make those transfers.
Does your phone have hotspot,
I do not believe it. Well, it probably has.
or does your laptop have hotspot? Or do you have ability to use your laptop on the road in the middle of?
I don't have a modem with, it probably does have a capability, but I'd have to talk to IT. It's one of the Surface Pros, so it may not have that, but I can double
We can
check.
just look at your phone a little later.
Just curious, Rob shaking his head in the background, going, damn, quiet.
Looks good to me.
And
Seems reasonable.
speaking with Brenda this morning, I do not believe this would have to go under a supplemental process because it's a transfer within the department, just within the
Line items.
Line item transfers.
For, so, right.
Right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I do have one, sorry, and I don't know who it's for, and I'm trying to remember the budget when was here last. Did we decide that your fees that you collect could be used for code compliance, or we decided they couldn't be used for code compliance,
My
right?
understanding from the state auditors is that they can't, they have to be used for the building
But not, okay.
portion.
I was just trying to remember how we determined or decided that.
But it could be used for the building portion of code compliance, correct?
I don't know that part. I mean,
So that would be a good question. If building complaints is half of his workload, we might be able to check with the prosecutor to see if that would cover half of his.
I don't know if it was like half though.
Well, right, 42% or whatever the number is.
I would say if he's working on something specific related to my department, those funds could probably be used there.
Possibly, yeah,
So we
that
should
would be
try
a
to
good,
figure that one.
that would be a good question.
But we
for the
have to
auditor.
check our bars numbers to make sure we weren't making the auditors.
Well, that answers one of my questions right there, so. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm sure that I'm gonna be listening more than I'm gonna be asking, but I had a few questions, if I may.
Absolutely.
Some of the things have already been addressed. So Lynn's already has the vehicle ready to go. For future, I don't know if the vehicle is gonna have enough clearance to get into some of the places that I need to get into. That'll, hopefully that works itself out, but I definitely need to have some sort of four-wheel drive clearance type of capability. And, but, Ford Escape, I use a CRP, my wife does, so it's probably similar to what that has, with the all-wheel drive and what have you.
My thinking on that one is once we get a fleet department, that we can change vehicles if needed to be changed, because I do see even a pickup truck that's out there and not being used.
On access, I understand that that's in the process to getting keys to the officer there, and then where the main files are. And with that, I've been going through a lot of the,
I will have to ask you to speak up because anybody listening from Zoom probably can't hear
okay,
you. So,
all right,
but
all right. So I will talk in my more command voice.
I know you're a soft-faced guy. It's just, I'm gonna hear it later that nobody can
Yeah,
hear you.
so been reviewing the files, the more recent complaints from 2002 and so far this year, and then going through the files that are still there and matching things up. So that's been addressed. There's been some talk on a website or web page for the county website and developing a co-compliance page, which I think is an excellent idea. I've been looking at some of the stuff that Clark County has and been talking to Rob on that. So we'll be working to get that up so people have the county resources and other resources that they would need that we might not be able to help them directly, but we can direct them to other resources that they get for, like, mitigation type situation or that type of thing where they have to have a professional mitigator come in. Let me see here. The bars numbers, that's already been explained, and so that answers pretty much all the questions I have. I think if it hasn't already been in, I'm sure it has, I'll develop a log to make sure that those hours, depending on what the complaint is and what I'm working on, will fall underneath the compliance, nuisance, these type of things. So it'll be separated out and then coded accordingly.
And are you building that by department? Because I remember you had, building complaints and all this, and if you're logging that time and then
Yeah.
you get an answer, that would make things.
Yeah,
better.
so I'll be coordinating with the departments on that though too, but I've been separating the complaints out into categories. And I do have an answer on that, on some of the source.
I like that because it would let us know how many hours you're spending in each branch of your compliance.
Right, yeah. And then just, there's been a little bit of discussion about future office space. And my understanding that it has already been designated over in the new building. Is that okay?
At least that's what I've been led to believe.
Yeah, agree.
If my preference I'm not really, as far as personal preference, it doesn't matter to me if I'm in the new building or if I'm over here. I just need to have someplace. A cubicle probably is not going to work. And so I just need to have someplace where I can sit. If somebody needs to come in and talk to me, I can then shut the door, that type of thing.
So you need privacy, availability to privacy.
Yeah, and then also because, having an area that is secure because of the confidentiality in some of these cases that in actually probably a lot of the cases.
And, sorry.
Go ahead.
What did we originally have Frank's spot as a cubicle or an office?
It's an office, it's an actual office.
Office with a door,
that
but
will
is it
close.
still available or did it go to planning?
I think it could be available again. That would just be a discussion. Lem and I did go, let Gordy know that there would be potential need for that, and he said he could talk to Mochi. But with planning, it may be easier to have a planner in a cubicle versus Lem in a cubicle, simply because he does need that privacy, yes. But Frank did have an office space in our area designated already, so.
Okay, Rob?
I think Gordy said he was gonna discuss with you other options.
Would we anticipate, once, we're moved into the new building and everybody's in the space, that the files and the records of the cases are going to be transferred they're going to be in your keeping versus in the building?
That's my understanding.
That would be,
Yeah.
I mean, to me, they
That's my
go with the
understanding.
job as
Yeah,
far as,
they
I
would-
mean, I understand now
Yeah.
that in the interim, you need to have access to
Yeah.
where they're housed now.
And all, like I said, I'll get to retention issues because some of those files are probably past its retention dates
Right.
and can be, destroyed. So,
Thinking on that one, I wasn't even thinking that route.
and the only other thing I have is priorities, and I'm looking at, from my standpoint, public health priorities. We have a lot of drain field septic issues just going through what I have. And so, I need from the commissioners, what do you want me to focus on? As a bigger focus, not saying that everything else goes to the wayside, but as what the priority should be.
So I guess my thought is, I wasn't expecting to get somebody as well versed as Lim when we hired for the position. My original idea was to get them to spend some time in each department, get to know these people that they're dealing with, that they can make their lives easier when they're working on these code compliance issues. I agree with Lynn that the health side, the environmental health side, we've got 2 years of that. It's come up time and time again. That'd be a good place to start. So maybe having him spend a little bit of time working with Avery and David and just work with them, go out, job shadow them a little bit, figure out how it all works so that when he goes out and looks, then he can be better apt to make the right decisions and know what to do. And that would be my focus, my first focus.
Does who does the inspections of septics installs around here?
That would be David and Avery.
So actually looking at the system, making sure it's good, it's covered good, all that stuff is there, it's not a
Yes,
building.
they do all that.
No, you're dead on right then. And that would be my top priority of
To have the compliance officer focus on. Yeah, I mean, I think public health is always, there is everything's important. but there is a hierarchy of, public health and safety is always going to be the top concern. I mean, that's really where the authority comes to regulate all this stuff, is because of that. That's so important. And then we get into other stuff as far as, neighbors getting along with each other and other things. Those are still important because they eventually can elevate into public safety and health, as we've seen in places. So I would support that too, as far as I think, and it's good that the board's kind of in agreement in that, because that's one thing. We've never really done this before, where we've had, because you're not a director, you're not a department, and it is, directors have quite a lot of latitude and discretion in deciding how the department gets run and what, so this is a little different, where, we're your direct supervisors. Not that we're not with departments directors, but it is a little different relationship. And so I think it's really important that the board kind of figures out how it's going to manage you, because you don't work for individual commissioners. No director does. They work for the board. And obviously they can and should interact with the board and individual commissioners on a regular daily basis is fine. But I would always hope that directors or anybody that is being directly supervised by the board feels confident enough to be able to kind of know kind of chain of command, as far as that if you're being asked to do something that is, or any director that seems to be contrary to a position of the board, again, that's who you work for. And so I'm not going to call you up and say, and if I do and say, hey, I'm really concerned about, my next door neighbor that's doing something, that you can say, thank you, Mr. Commissioner, that's great. Let's bring that up with the board and see, and we'll see if that's a priority of the board.
Yeah.
So,
In the same regard.
so please feel empowered to be able to do that if that comes from
And
you
the
or
same deal,
anybody
if you
else.
get guidance in any way from one commissioner, next update you have, check with all three of them.
I've been navigating
Right, it's
waters
probably interesting.
with, and have gotten some good advice from the PA's office as to what I can and can't do. And certainly any staff member that feels, hey, I think you're moving too far, to the curb there, you need to, I feel
Just to
free
check in.
Yeah, right.
I do have a backtrack question on the septics. Are we gonna be working old cases from, say, 2 years ago? Or are we gonna set a date range that are we working on the new stuff and going backwards? Are we doing, I can't imagine, maybe we are we going to have him check into, somebody's trees overhanging my yard from 2 years ago? Or are we gonna drop those off? Are we still gonna look into a septic from 2 years ago that maybe hasn't been resolved? Where are we drawing that line, or are we? Is it just whatever you want to do?
If I may, so some of the complaints that I've been going through are over 10 years old.
Oh,
Right.
Septic complaints or just any complaints?
Well, any complaints, I left the maybe I think I left it in my office, but the list that Lynn had given me of active cases up until this year. And then she gave me the pile of complaints for this year. And so on those active cases, and really it's, I've got to go through and eventually go through and look at it and say, okay, are they actually active cases, or there's a couple of them that have been resolved, but it just hasn't been formally closed in, the system. And then there's a lot of, I think, response letters that will need to go out saying, we've received your complaint and that we're working to resolve these issues.
Are you comfortable with, because I would say for me, just personally, what I'm looking for is we've kind of set a priority of public health that you go through first and foremost, the whole load of things, sort out the things that are a public health concern versus other things. And then again, don't forget about these. We are going to get to those, but we're going to concentrate on these first. And then maybe come back with here's the universe of possibilities. What do you want me to do? Do we want to knock off these ones that are 10 years old, or meaning take them off the list? Do we want to have a date range? Because I think that's something that the board needs to have a discussion, but I need enough information. They don't really, I don't know if it's, we're talking about 500 things or 50 things or 5 things.
And right now, I would say,
You don't know either.
I don't know either.
Right.
What I've gone through, I would say it's closer to 50 things, but there's a lot more on that list of active open cases, so. But yeah, I can go through and compile and get that data.
See, I don't want to necessarily micromanage what you go after, other than septic type public health stuff. Other than that, I'm fine with letting him deem what he thinks is most necessary or most vital, or
So we got
easiest resolved.
one more big thing to make a decision about. So Lim is a special officer, special deputy with the sheriff's office, and so he is able and licensed to carry. Is that something we want to allow him to do? And how do you feel about that in the situation? I know that, a lot of these cases are frequent flyers with the sheriff's office, and I don't want to send him out there if he knows it's a frequent flyer that could be an issue. But I also don't want to have, people that are not frequent flyers show up with somebody with a weapon that they could feel threatened or intimidated in any way. So do we want to leave it up to him? Do we want to make a decision? Do we want to think about it?
I don't want to authorize that person, whoever that may be today, tomorrow, or the next week, as having that authority. But my recommendation is to allow Lem the ability to have the badge and to carry. But my point is, if he's replaced by somebody, that honor or that ability does not transfer to the next person that has his job without a discussion. But for him personally, he's trained, he's went through that, and I feel fully comfortable. And that should be good.
I would say for me, I would rely on your discretion, as far as I think you are, you're authorized, and I think that is a tool that should be available to you. I would suggest, though, that you don't go
Last resort.
you don't go out, carrying your badge and your gun on your hip necessarily. I mean, as far as, but it should, I think it should be, I'm perfectly fine with you having the ability to do that if it's if you're discreet.
Yeah.
Because I think the situation it depends on the situation, whether it warrants. Some folks, you may read the situation, and you're old law enforcement, as far as, it's perception can make a big difference with folks sometimes, and you have to read the situation. It's the same as any of us do when we are dealing with folks. Some people are in an agitated state, and you don't want necessarily, even if I have the authority to do something, is it really smart to rile people up? And sometimes so I would rely on your training to know when you need to be discreet and when you don't. But I don't have any problem with you if you're comfortable in that you should have that as a tool that's available to you, because in some situations it may be warranted.
I've already identified several officer safety issues in these complaints just from past.
Right.
And also coordinate with the sheriff's department, and I have specific parameters as a special commission deputy versus being a regular deputy. So when I'm off the job, unless the sheriff calls me in, I don't have police powers, number one, outside the county. And number two, I don't carry when I'm not working.
Right.
Period. So I don't have my badge with me, that type of thing. And I've never been a badge flasher.
Right.
So
That brings up a new question. Have you talked to the sheriff about and get willingness for you to get backup on some of these? Hey, I need a deputy to come with me to go out to this property. Have you had those?
right, yeah,
discussions?
so we've discussed about, and that's another thing too, is a vehicle radio calling into dispatch, and they have, so I can't use my old call number for the prosecutor's office. But they have a number in reserve for me for code compliance.
Okay.
And then I can call, and that's what I typically do when I was working with the prosecutor's office, is I would call that out at the scene and tell them what it is that I'm doing. And in most cases, it was serving civil papers
Right.
or attempting to contact a witness or victim. And then I tell them, depending on the situation and who I'm contacting, I'd like to have a radio check in 5. They automatically, and I've asked Jeff to do this, is to automatically set it for 15. And that's an auto, for the officers. But if I am going to a situation where there has been past issues, with the sheriff's department or complaints, that kind of thing, then I'll say to do radio check at 5.
That
And
brings up,
dispatch has been very, very good about that. The other thing though too is in some of these cases, I will be asking for a second unit to have a deputy back me up. And the thing with that is even though I would have another deputy with me, I'm still taking the lead, and I'm still the person that is, contacting the individual and handling the situation there. They're there as a backup, in case things, go sideways. So, and that's common practice in law enforcement 101. I mean, that's.
my question was, and I haven't asked you this yet because I forgot. Have you checked with just Jeff King or anybody to see if they have radio or handheld or something?
Well, I have
Yeah. You have your own?
Yeah, I have a handheld issued to me by the sheriff's department. As far as vehicle radio, I haven't talked to him about availability or the sheriff's department about availability. And I suspect if they do, it may be one of the older ones, which is fine because most of the time I'm able to hit the repeaters with the older radios. That hasn't been a problem so far.
I'm just thinking we definitely need you to have a second line of communication if cell phone is not available. And I want to make sure you have that option in your vehicle.
And I think the other thing too is, when I'm contacting people, I'm not out there to cite them.
Right.
I'm out there.
99% of the time you'll be fine. I just.
Yeah, I mean, that's, so, the idea is to get is compliance, involuntary compliance, and giving people resources and, talking about with them. And I know that in past conversations, grants have been talked about. I'm not too familiar with that. I will be familiar with that, but if there's possibility for that for people to be able to apply for that kind of thing. So
Okay, before we get off this, your thoughts on that specific issue that you raised?
I'm of course fine with
Okay,
it. I just wanted us to, as a board, make a decision.
Yeah. you feel like you got what you need?
yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah.
How often do we want to have him come back for one of these little updates?
I would say on a regular basis, especially until things get
What's
Uh,
regular, 2 weeks?
5-week cycles.
It's
Unless you-
standard unless we want to do
I
less.
was
at the
gonna say, he's
beginning.
new, I would kind of like to have it more often than 5 weeks.
Yeah.
is my thing.
Yeah.
Even if we have to come in at 9:30 to do it every 2 or 3.
Yeah, I mean, is that,
Just
are
kind
you,
of hear what's going on.
yeah, just to
Right.
check in, because it's gonna get, again, it's difficult for you to have the official check-in outside of the public meeting for the
Right,
full board.
right.
And
But he
so-
can check in during
Oh.
any time during any meeting we have on Tuesdays and just pop in like Casey does for 2 minutes to ask a question. and
Yeah, of course.
Head out anytime you want.
I'd say put them on the 5-week schedule, but also feel free to stop by anytime, give us an update, let us know how it's going, you know, not like a 15-minute block, but maybe a 3 or 4-minute block.
If you feel like you need more than that,
Then we.
Then say something.
No.
I'll throw you out.
Yeah, I'll talk to
yeah,
you.
talk to Lee. You can be in here as often as you want, as long as she's fine with it. She will find time on that schedule.
Squeak.
The
Don't
key
worry.
is just know that you can squeak in whenever you want for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
If you need guidance. Or continue.
Thank you, Larry.
Thank you.
Thank you. for coming on board.
Good morning. Come on in.
Come on down.
Yeah, it is.
Like a pin drop. We think it goes to 1:30.
Please no.
No, you don't want to.
No, we don't want.
I'm kind of curious what the Zoom population is today. Or
24 so far.
Up to 24 so far. Let's see if we can get to 70.
That's later.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Could I get? I could send an email to the insurance statement for the port that shows that they're additionally insured for the range. When you get a chance, Lee.
Okay, whenever you're ready.
Okay, first thing's not on the list, but Casey's here and so we wanted
I
to.
did notice her, yes.
Yes. So we wanted to talk about something personnel related. And so we had our office manager 2 leave the county. And so we've been in the process of looking for an applicant to fill that spot. And so we did some interviews last week and we found a candidate. And they have about 25 years of experience.
Very good.
Yeah, about 20 of that, roughly, rough numbers is with the county in the past. And so we would like to make an offer. We advertise it at step 1 through 3. We would like to make an offer of step 5 based on the candidate's qualifications and experience doing what we need them to do.
Are they a current county employee?
No. No, they're not. They would be returning to the county. So we'd be asking for the step 5, and we would also like to ask if they could have their time in service as well.
Reinstated.
Reinstated, yeah.
Rob, have you, I don't want to get in front of myself. Have you looked at your documents on this position on comparables and or any of that?
No, that would be part of the salary survey.
Right. I was just trying to get ahead
How
of.
long has this person been out of county service?
2017.
Yeah.
Yes.
So typically, they've been gone over a year, you don't reinstate their county service time. And Gordy and I've talked about this. I'm not opposing Gordy's request on the vacation or sick leave. I would just ask commissioners to think about the other office managers that didn't get that or didn't know they get asked for that. Typically, you've done this for senior level positions, executive directors and some other senior level positions. Rarely do you go below that level when you negotiate for vacation and sick leave. So it would be a change in the policy, though I know there are exceptions, and that's what he's asking for. But from an equity standpoint, I just ask you to be aware that one, others either didn't ask or didn't know they could ask, and two, they will ask from this point on. Most likely every position between the office manager level and the director level. Essentially.
Do we know how many years they were with the county previously?
20,
About 20.
25, yes, 25.
Okay.
Is the amount of hours working a week for the old employee the same as the new employee?
Yes, they're both full-time positions.
Yes.
Yeah. The one that was filling it though, Mark Schooley, he was working part-time. So we
That's
just
what I
adjusted.
thought. So,
Yeah.
Yeah,
but-
we
So
adjusted
it was a
for him.
full-time position, you just had a part-time guy in a full-time position.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because that's all he wanted to work.
And we made it work.
Yes.
How long was he there?
In that position, I don't know, 3 years maybe?
Yeah, we haven't had a
2
lot.
years?
So there will be a little bit of budget hit. The difference between the part-time and the full-time.
Yes.
Yes,
That's correct.
but it was full-time
It's
for years.
right,
Yeah,
it's
it's
on- it's on the org chart or something.
Yes, because prior to him, we had Mary Clark, who had been there before,
Right.
before any of us had been.
They built the building around.
Yes.
So it's C. Not her appearance, I meant her skill.
Yes, her skills, yes. It's really important to have somebody with that skill set.
Yeah.
They are the face of the department.
Is the person stepping into the same position they had previously? Or is it a different position, different?
It's similar. Yeah, when they left county employment, it's very similar.
Yes.
I
Different
can say
department.
that I'm,
Different department.
Different department.
I am one of the people that will always fight for fair and even across the board. I don't care who they are or whatever. If the county is pretty much had a policy that if that level of service says you don't get your time back, then I'm gonna stick to that. If we're going to allow it on this case, I'm fine with that. Just know that I will fight for it to be on this case every time. Whichever we do, I'm fine with. Just know that's where the bar is for me.
And just so we understand the difference being that if we give credit for service, then there accruals for vacation, all that
Yes.
is at that rate versus.
And longevity pay.
Right. Just so we know what we're.
So that could be a budget hit for every new hire in that position or above.
Yeah, as much as I'm gonna have to be firm on, I'm fine with the grade 5. I think that's very reasonable, given the years of service and the skill set. And I think we need to pay folks for their, what assets they bring. The credit for prior years in the county, I think that's just a bridge too far for me. If it was closer to, if it wasn't 2017, if it was, just over the line, maybe I would have some wiggle room, but we're coming up on, 4+ years. And I think it's just to be consistent. I would have to say no to that. I'm fine with the 5 placement.
And my consistency is kind of been stuck at 1 through 3. But in this case, because of previous history, I will go with the 5 as well. To make up for not reinstating the back years.
Commissioner Anderson.
Uh,
Christopher could go either way on
My
the.
first thought was a 4, but with the fact that of the years of service with the county, I'm willing to go to a 5. But like you guys, it's a bridge too far to reinstate all the other pay. So I think that's a fair middle ground.
Okay. Hopefully that won't be a deal breaker for you, but
All right, thank you.
okay,
Thank you.
we're fine being the bad guys. So,
Blame it on
we
me.
tried.
Okay, we'll blame it on Rob.
It was. We were all right there. Till the end,
Oh, no, I set him up with the whole question. You knew it was coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't know if you're all finished up with your, where to put the code enforcement officer.
No, hopefully, yeah,
Yeah.
that's really relevant as far as to our earlier conversation, as far as, so what can we do as far as we want? It seems like the job, it needs to be in its own office if possible, not just a cubicle in a room. And so what options are available in our new shiny building over there that we're remodeling as we speak?
I hope not.
Is there anything wrong? We were gonna use this for storage or something, right?
Yeah, so that's your storage for what's in the basement here. And so that is an option. So,
Can we move that storage?
I'm a no on that.
yeah, so we have that across the hall from you, that first gray square on the, next to the server room. That is a shared storage. So,
This one?
yes,
So that's shared storage, so we should be able to move some of this in here and
Yes.
put them right there would be fine.
yeah. Yep. It's set up. I don't know if it has all the,
Thoughts?
it does have data and power. I don't know if it has it to the capacity of the other offices, but I think we tried to set everything
Everything
up.
up for this
Yeah,
eventuality.
yeah, exactly. Knowing that these things happen.
Although that is an option, I still think the best place would be up in building, because most of the people he's going to be working with on a close basis are in building, are in planning, are in aware. But I think, I still think that's the best
Yeah, so they could
alternative for him.
fill their the space that was created for them.
Come point to it, Lynn, or Gordy, so we're all looking at the same thing.
Frank's office was wanted to be. This one, because you have Jean, Cindy, Amelia's actually gonna be here, I'm here, and then planning is over here, and this was gonna be Frank right here, so that would be one. If that's what you guys decide.
So those are a couple, if you want office space where there's privacy, those are a couple locations where it's possible. You know, your records, you probably want to have secure, so we'd probably have to do some kind of chain link, security enclosure inside that storage room for your records.
If we chose to put him in the commissioner's chamber.
Yeah, unless you took over the whole space, the idea was shared storage, because Dave McClure unfortunately does not have a storage room like you guys do. So, and that was one area that he might.
So building and planning, though, there is storage, secure storage within their facility.
Yes,
within
they
that.
have, we designed 2 rooms, and I think Lynn has her.
The room directly
Almost a library.
behind where I just pointed out his office, that room directly behind it is what we're calling like our library, but that's where we're gonna have our fire safe. And, things of that nature, so that room's secure, plus his office would be secure.
Right.
So the one across the hall from there, is that one for planning? Same thing. So you got, this one's for you,
Right,
is that one for
Yes.
planning?
Yes.
that's planning,
Okay.
So if we went with that option, Lynn, would you be okay with sharing some of your secure space?
I
for
would,
the-
yes.
for
I
those
mean,
rec-
we
Which you
would've-
already have them now.
We would have anyway, I mean, and so with the change, it's not really anything different than what it was before, except for he's just using our area and he's doing his own thing, but
Right.
he's totally welcome to use
Okay.
that space.
Okay, well, for me, I would reserve the right to think about it, but I would lean towards putting them up there in the planning and building, but I don't know, whatever my,
That my choice is planning and building. Anything other than that,
I could,
I could be
I could
persuaded,
be-
but it would take more persuasion.
I just know in the commissioner, we do have records, we do have, and there was a reason that room was designed to have
Yes.
records.
Yeah.
That, and it would be a good idea to, I think, get his opinion on that too. And if I remember correctly in talking to him, I don't want to speak out of place, but if I remember correctly, he would have long-term rather be up in the building.
Well, we talked about it a little bit when he came over last week, so I could show him where all the current piles are. Which is when he and I went and told Gordy that we may be looking for a spot for him. And he wasn't opposed to that idea because, you know, he's just gonna have the access and the files can be there, the records can be there. And then he's got a designated space that's where his, you know, private area. And that would have been, again, where Frank was. So if someone comes in to see him, we just take him through our reception area, you know, and then he would have that privacy and security factor.
And I'm looking at it also as a, I guess you can say in the public eye, it's a little bit of a separation from the commissioner. So it isn't Lee walking the person complaining through the commissioner's offices to the code compliance person. If you figure my vision there.
Okay, so let's tentatively.
Yeah, there's spaces
There's
and options.
I mean, we
Yeah.
can change if it doesn't work, yeah, so. Okay,
All right, thank you.
Thank
I was
you.
just here, if you have questions.
Yes. thank you.
Okay. A couple items on the consent agenda today. The first one is item number 4, and we would like to purchase basically their antennas for our field personnel and tried 3 of them. The sheriff and IT have tried these out. So we have lots of areas in the county where there's no reception. So you go to Glenwood, you can't use a cell phone. They're actually with these antennas able to use their cell phones in the valley and get out, as well as all of the Klickitat River.
It's more of like a cell phone booster than
Yes,
a
yeah.
actual two-way radio.
Yeah, it's a cell phone booster.
Okay.
And so we can
That
get,
might fix my other question.
yeah, so we'd like to try 3 of these. We have our foreman in Glenwood. We have a couple field inspectors and that move around all parts of the county. We want to see if try these out because they should work and it'll provide an
Do we
upgrade.
know if it works in Glenwood? Have we done? a
Yeah, the
survey?
sheriff and IT actually did several locations. Glenwood, they were able to get out and have a conversation. Same as most all of the Klickitat River Valley, and then areas over in Bickleton, some of those canyons where you can't, there's no signal. They were able to make connections and phone calls.
All right.
So
How much are they a pop?
to get set up for 3 of these, it's 5,000. So I don't have the breakdown, I don't think, of all the equipment and parts.
They divided by 3 year, $1,700 a pop.
Yeah.
And that's what us doing the work, not hiring somebody to install.
Well, it's through Day Wireless, and I don't know how
Yeah.
much of Day Wireless is gonna set up versus our staff. I don't know.
We're the breakdown.
Yeah,
Is there a monthly fee too, or just a year setup?
I'm pretty sure it's just your cell phone bill once you buy the equipment. But there may be some ongoing maintenance through the supplier of the equipment, Day Wireless.
Can you forward me that actual equipment stuff? Because I know some other people in the valley might be interested if it has actually successful.
Sure. Sure, actually, I can give you the package.
I could do that too.
Okay, let's see, so we have our first set of 4 HVAC units in the Pioneer Center, and this is the award. So we can start moving forward with ordering and procuring the equipment, and that'll determine when we can actually put it in.
Yeah, when would we anticipate? I mean, it's.
I think you talked to them, they said
Yeah,
8 weeks out.
8 weeks could be,
8 months, I
Yeah.
guess, so.
Yeah,
but we're not sure yet. I
Right.
mean, the
You
chiller
could
part
actually
of it,
see them.
yeah, the chiller part's the hard part.
Okay.
yeah.
And is there any issue if, for 8 weeks out doing that work in the dead of winter?
It will be a problem.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you for that honest answer.
yeah. but not as much of a problem as we can do
In
temporary.
the middle of the,
Yeah,
when it's 114 degrees.
yeah, the cooling is the harder one, so we can plug in portable heaters,
Right.
which is, it's pretty economical and reasonable to do. The AC is the challenge, doing without that. in the
Yes.
summer,
Okay.
so It's possible.
Okay, well, we will do our best.
Yes, yeah, we'll make a decision when we actually get the equipment.
Right.
That's,
The problem is all four of them have to come down at once.
Right.
Because of where they are, they're up in the attic.
Right.
So what we're doing is doing the areas where and to take them all, you gotta take them all out and put them all back in, starting with the furthest one back,
Yeah.
so. Right. They'll all, once you disconnect them, they're all four
Or
up down.
Yeah.
Right.
Until they are hooked up again.
Okay,
Then we're replacing these, not because they're broken, but because they're end of life.
One is broken.
they break periodically.
But yeah, matter of fact, the AC and the seniors, 'cause it leaked in health, but it actually services seniors, has been down this summer. We've had a portable unit in for on and off. We just shut it down at the end.
So there's no salvageability of the ones that are working currently. You're not gonna put them somewhere else because they're gonna break tomorrow.
No, they're not.
Hey, yeah,
Yeah, okay.
the landfill maybe, that's about
Yeah.
it. They're not good.
No.
yeah, no, go on.
All right, so we have pay estimate number 3 for grade works in the amount of $128,636. And they continue to work on that one, as Lee knows. They're putting down crushed rock now, so our survey crew is humming in the midst of trying to keep the other survey work they need to do on our other jobs, so on the construction side. So this is kind of a busy time for them and us.
Mhm.
So yesterday, the contractor finished the wearing course on West Darland. So, and then they'll finish paving I think they were trying to get to one of the intersections, the 2 large ones. But they'll finish those and the approaches today is their plan or was.
They appeared to be working on that when I came through. Or I inadvertently forgot. Again, I am a creature of habit, so.
Yeah, yeah.
Work was well underway.
So the ride was good?
How was the
The
ride?
ride was beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
It's a little bit of a wait to get to it.
That was actually, I can't complain. I happened to just hit the dice and they were turning the sign as I drove by. So it was perfect.
Yeah, that is perfect.
Yes.
As opposed to the Friday, which was the opposite.
First
I
person in
I
line.
saw the crowd leaving and I was not close enough to, I thought about
Watch the sign.
being
turn
civilly
down.
disobedient, but I don't appreciate that. So I waited for quite some time.
I have a question on the Darlin asphalt thing. On the side of it, it's 2 layers now, so it's got a heck of a drop off there. Is there any plans from the county to go back through with the grader and try to pull some of that gravel back up to make it a shoulder?
Yeah, that's what they'll do. So there's a lot of extra material,
Yeah.
so they'll come back and pull the shoulders and,
I thought that's.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, in some areas we're able to have, there'll be a little bit of gravel shoulder left and others, not so much.
As long as
Just-
it is straight drop
No,
off.
yeah,
We want to protect that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Couple years ago, so.
Yeah, and that road will last for a long, long time. It's built well.
Okay, I'll quit interrupting, please. continue.
No, it's okay. Let's see, Roosevelt grade paving, so they've been grinding this week, so grinding that lift the pavement off so we can infill basically with our first lift of pavement back and so it's moving along. I think they have 10 days worth of paving, but that won't be until later, but they'll get there and it should get paved out. As our weather, I don't think we'll have a problem weather-wise. Cold mornings, but usually it's drier and warms up over there. And the road sits on the sunny side of the hill, which benefits us. And the landfill always in the winter time, in those colder times. Let's see, no movement yet on our signs and guideposts. Courtney Road, we're reviewing, or this week, we'll be reviewing the final set of plans for ad. And so that one will be ready after we complete that review. Klickitat path, nothing new on that one. And then the guys are still working on our parking lots around the courthouse that we're responsible for next year. On the maintenance side, Goldendale crew is still finishing up out on pipeline this week. There's some minor things to complete, plus some ditching work that needs to be finalized. And then we got a little bit of rain over the past weekend, which helps us with our grading. And then they're completing an approach on Estep Road, where we put those other grindings. White Salmon and Glenwood shops, they completed the Carr Road turnaround, and then they're gonna start the Panakinik turnaround this week. So they're working on that as a big project. They have a couple culverts they're replacing and grading activities. On the county services building, so they continue to pour concrete and prep for pouring more concrete. And they're to that point where they can form things up, tie steel, and then the electrician has to come back to pull tie wire for the heated path and entries into our buildings, and then they'll keep pouring, but it's kind of a slower process now. So the last pour
Is the concrete that's out here gonna continue on into the courthouse parking lot, or what's?
No, there's kind of a elevated, basically pedestrian table that kind of lets people know there's something different, which is the concrete. In the middle, there's two sidewalks on each side.
Right there or something?
What's that?
What's gonna be in the transition between the blacktop and the cement?
Concrete, so there'll be concrete on either side going perpendicular to the roadway, and then also parallel, we'll have the sidewalks, and
So
there'll be
that's
like
just
a driveway
giant
approach.
crosswalk, you might say.
Yeah. So they continue, hopefully they'll get back on tearing out the pavement in the main parking lot here. And then I think they're in the process of confirming that they can get asphalt when they want to finish things up in October. So that's always the challenge for us here. We don't want them to shut down too soon, and if they know something's coming, they're usually able to make it happen. Flooring in the new building, they're working from the top down, so they've got most of the tile and carpet done on the third floor, and the tile is going in. Once they finish, they'll move to the second and keep working their way down to the bottom. But most of the flooring is in, so it's just a matter of finishing things up. They've got a lot more of those window frames, so it's really starting to look finished. And so if you want to go over for another visit anytime, it would be good to, there's been some changes since the last time you were there. And then yesterday they were bringing in all the casework for the commissioner's bench and the commissioner's meeting room. And so that's being installed as well. So it'll start to change and look like it's going to look when we're done. Electrical, I think electricians still pushed. They're on the third floor. They've made all the connections to their cabinets, and there's power on in different parts of the building. The server room obviously has power because our IT guys are setting things up. The big push is trying to get the phone connection for the elevator, so the elevator can be finalized and we can use it. And that we're trying to get that done by the 23rd.
The elevator needs a phone connection to.
In case you get locked in it.
Yeah, it has to have that
Oh, I
emergency,
get it.
emergency call.
I can yell pretty loud. Yes.
Yeah, so that's critical because to have an elevator operator come to operate it, because there's kind of this period where we have to start bringing more things in, furniture and stuff like that.
nice
So
to have
that's all
the elevator.
scheduled. And it's $3,000 a day to have.
An elevator up. I'm in
Yeah,
the
that's
wrong line over there.
certified to press the button for you.
Wow.
Yeah,
What?
yes.
Look at me go.
Yeah, it's, yeah.
Like way old days.
Yeah,
It's like a bar pilot to bring my boat into the Columbia River.
Yeah. You can't do anything without it because of the rules.
Oh,
Look at this.
yeah. Where are the rules?
The training and
Yeah.
education experience.
Yeah, and they're-
Free.
He's just got a loud voice, so if the phone doesn't work, he can
I
scream
guess.
loudly.
So anyway, we're pushing to get the phone in, so we don't have to deal with any of those other issues.
Yeah, don't deal with
Yeah,
that.
don't deal with
No.
You can hire a lot of people to.
People
carry
that
furniture
pack stuff upstairs
Yeah.
for $3,000.
I can buy you
a
some
day.
mules if you need it. I
Yeah.
don't 3,000.
Okay, so really nothing new on the lower portion of that. On the building, we've covered the main items. Courthouse entry, I'll let Jeff maybe.
Yeah, we're done pouring. So we're gonna start putting the railing on the south side, north side, we got with the concrete cure. We're starting to put in all the fill, the dirt material for the grass. So they're gonna start cleaning it up pretty quickly now. We'll reset the vestibule.
So when would we anticipate the doors being reopened as far as on the north and the south?
We're scheduled to be completely done October 8th.
But we're trying to get the
So
south.
we're gonna get the
open.
south open fairly quickly. We're hoping south will be open maybe by the end of this week.
Good, thank you.
All right, HVAC units, we talked about Pioneer Center already, and then we'll be advertising either next week or the following week for the 4 on top of the courthouse that we're gonna replace. And then one unit will be, so we have to, it's probably gonna be several weeks to get these units, these big commercial units. And so one of the units is one off the
Yeah,
NX1.
yes.
That one we had to replace, I think it was 2 years ago now.
That
That,
should still have some light in it,
Oh, yeah.
I would hope.
so,
Those are actually pretty good. Those are compared to the Pioneer Center. Those
Yeah.
are very good units.
yeah.
So yeah, we'll pluck that one off and put it up here. So we're actually only purchasing 3 units. We're replacing 4, but only purchasing 3.
Anything new on the radio?
Nothing new on the radio. Our survey crew's pretty tied up right now, so we'll keep moving forward.
No questions.
Just a quick follow-up. Have we had, I've seen some email strings with WashDOT about the Murdoch speed reduction. And I was just, when's the appropriate time to have a conversation with the WashDOT fella that's kind of because he's been answering people saying he's, is interested and wants to have, it's gonna have communication coordination with the public, road department in the county as far as the board. So because I'm hoping, it seems like based on the information that's being sent to him, he understands that there is a difference of opinion on what they were proposing initially versus what the community is asking for.
Yeah.
And that seemed, both the distance and the speeds,
Uh-huh.
and that it really is, this is the time, I would think, to be able to make sure that's getting communicated.
Right.
Ultimately, WashDOT is WashDOT, and they will do as they see fit.
Right.
But I don't want to miss an opportunity to be able to make sure that's getting communicated. I believe it is based on the emails that I'm being CC'd on, but I don't know is there a time for me to follow up directly with the project manager?
I talked to him last week on Monday
Okay,
before the meeting, and I just, got back. I've got 20 of these
right.
to deal with, and so I think, given, I haven't seen any of the email responses, but giving him time to digest that a little bit,
Okay,
maybe, sometime the end of this week or first of next week might be good to follow up.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll do that. I'm kind of letting it, because people
Yeah.
are they are contacting me
Good.
directly, and they seem,
Good.
and I don't know how, I don't know if it's them that I'm on the list, but I am getting
Uh-huh.
those, and he is responding to them directly to people.
Okay,
So I just want to follow up on that.
okay.
So, as I said, I would, so.
Yeah, I think another week would be enough
Okay.
time.
Okay, that's all I have. Okay, thank you. you.
There is I forgot to say this, there is a meeting with the Forest Service and everybody else for Dog Mountain. That also includes Catherine Creek and Courtney Road on the 30th.
Okay.
If I can send you the link,
Yeah.
I'll get it approved with the people, but I don't think they'll have an issue.
Okay, yeah, I'd like to at least sit in on
If
that.
you want to sit in, yeah, I'll send you the link.
Okay, thank you. All right, that's it.
That's it, yeah. All right, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay. Like the sheriff. Oh, he sees through the window.
Hello, everybody.
How you doing, Sheriff?
Morning, Sheriff.
Good morning.
How are you today? Good to see you.
Good to see you.
You too. He's coming back. Thank you, sir.
I'm gonna give him like 30 seconds.
We're all asked. That's all I can do. Where should we start? Shall we start? Okay, all right.
Let's go ahead and get started. If you will join us. Good morning.
Over a total of 8,838 calls from service from January 1 to September 20. In addition to the calls from service, deputies served 173 civil papers during the same time period. Item 2, the Klickitat County posse members played a major role again this year in assisting the sheriff's office with security and other duties at the Klickitat County Fair. The county fair was a success this year and people appeared to be having a good time. Item 3, Klickitat County Sheriff's Office Chief Civil Clerk Karen England will be providing the commissioners an update on our request for the purchasing of body cameras for sheriff's office patrol deputies and correction deputies. And she's here today. New Washington state reform laws restricting police pursuits, use of force, and contact with mental subjects, along with other restrictions, is causing concern among law enforcement officials. I agree with Clark County Sheriff Chuck Atkins' memo, which states the Washington State Legislature has completed in April the most significant package of police reforms in our history of law enforcement. Majority of these laws come into effect on Sunday, July 25th. These new laws were not passed by a vote of the people, but by the legislature, who, to varying degrees, did not constructively cooperate with the various law enforcement groups during the legislative process. Our concern is that the new legislation will have some unintentional consequences that put the public and the police officers in jeopardy. I have requested my undersheriff and mayor to provide commissioners during our update meeting some examples of how the new police reform laws will affect the services we now provide to the citizens of our county. Also, on how the new laws will handcuff the law enforcement officers from carrying out law enforcement services to the public. On September 21st, 2021 at 4 p.m. Today, Representative Dina Mossberg will be contacting a Zoom meeting with all law enforcement officials in Klickitat County. And it will be covering House Bill 1054, which is tactics, and House Bill 1310, use of force. We're looking forward to having that meeting with Gina. Who wants to get her input, see if she can make some difference or some modifications to what the current passage of these laws is. Please refer to Chief Jail Deputy Carmen Knox as attached update for jail activities. And I'll touch just a little bit on that. A lot there, so we can take up the time to read it through. I believe all of you have copies.
I already read it,
Okay.
but you can go ahead if you want.
I want to thank Goldendale American Legion 116 for hosting a free 9/11 memorial ceremony for all the first responders and their spouses, significant others. I had Klickitat County Sheriff Jail Administrator Carmen Knox represented the sheriff's office at this event. Chief Knox was a guest speaker at the event in which he did an outstanding job. Please refer to her attached speech with her jail report. I think at this time, if it's okay with the board, I'll have, because it just read it, I'll have Tim give some examples, then I'll have Karen do the body camera.
So legislature passed 340 total bills in the last session. 15 were specific to law enforcement. I'll give you a list of what the law enforcement specific ones were and kind of a general understanding of what they are. Then I'll go a little bit further into two specific ones that are going to affect day-to-day stuff. So House Bill 1088 deals with the establishment of a Brady list and set some protocols for each prosecutor's office related to that. Senate Bill 5051 deals with the Criminal Justice Training Commission and certifications, some of the specific stuff, kind of defines some of the decertification processes and things of that nature. House Bill 1267 establishes an Office of Independent Investigation. This is a statewide thing. It prohibits anybody from with previous law enforcement from being on this board. So this is essentially a board that will determine whether the officers did the right thing or the wrong thing. But if you have law enforcement experience, you're not allowed to serve on that board. House Bill 1089 deals with the auditor's office and collecting data, I believe at a state level. Senate Bill 5259 deals with data collection through the Attorney General's office and law enforcement use of force reports. So those are specific rules that the administration has to follow. It basically triples our workload for what the administrators have to do at each agency. House Bill 1223 deals with recording custodial interrogations. That's a new law that's going to take effect on July 25th, 2022. Where basically all interrogations when somebody is in custody, they have to be recorded, both audio and video. House Bill 1140 deals with juvenile access to attorneys. That takes effect January 1st, 2022. And that requires that we have to provide an attorney, not provide access to an attorney. We have to provide an attorney for juveniles before we can talk to them about an incident. They can no longer waive their Miranda rights or constitutional rights. House Bill 1310, I think I've talked briefly with you guys about some of the rules in 1310. That's the, oh, I'm sorry, I skipped one. So House Bill 1320, it deals with protection orders. Some provisions took place January 25th, or excuse me, July 25th. Some take effect July 1st of 2022. This was, I believe, like 176 pages that deals with protection orders. And when our prosecutor came up with this basically this PowerPoint. He'd been trying to read through that, and it's, you miss one word in that and it changes basically the response of law enforcement in those, so. House Bill 1310 deals with the use of force. I've talked briefly about some of that stuff. I'll go a little bit further into detail here in just a minute with that one. Senate Bill 5476, this is the Blake response. So Blake was the not my pants argument for the possession of drug stuff. It basically took possession of drugs down to a gross misdemeanor. And there is a basically an expiration date on that law. So it gives the legislature time to decide whether they're going to continue to have drugs be illegal, or if they want to just let the law expire, and then drugs are not something it would be able to arrest for. That doesn't cover manufacturing. So like big marijuana grows, people that are manufacturing hard drugs, we can still pursue on the manufacturing side. So that didn't touch that.
What's the level that it becomes manufacturing versus, is there a?
Well, if you're manufacturing, like if you,
I mean, I used to build houses for a living and I
Right.
would manufacture one house a year.
sure,
Which
yep.
is different than me building a subdivision.
Be like meth.
Yeah, so, or like a marijuana grow. So like if you're growing marijuana and you don't have a permit to do so, which you are required to have, you don't have a, you're not like a commercial grow or anything
You
like
have
that.
a permit for personal use, like 6 plants or something like that?
Yeah, and
You
so
still have
right
to have
now,
a
I
permit.
think, if they're under 21, it's for 3 plants, and if they're over 21, it's for 15.
But they still have to have a permit.
Still have to have a permit.
Interesting.
Yes, and there's not a way for us to track that at a state level or even a county level. So we do have some places that are voluntary compliance. They've reached out to us and say, hey, I've got a medical marijuana grow. Would you like to come out and take a look at my grow? And I've gone out there when I was a detective and took pictures and got all that stuff. Because the state flies our county on a regular basis because we have a lot of marijuana grows.
I might add the state liquor commission. Is basically the law enforcement for the marijuana.
Yeah, and they track commercial grows or what's called a co-op grow. So not that we would ever do it, but as an example, the 3 of us could decide, hey, let's I've got a medical marijuana license, you got a medical marijuana license, you got one. Let's do a co-op grow so we can register with the state. And then the state would essentially be able to track that stuff. There's certain requirements. But as an example, if you had a medical marijuana card and he had a medical marijuana card, but you didn't have the ability to grow, he can get a grower's license on your behalf. So basically you both would go into the same doctor, get the same paperwork done, send it to the state, and the state would issue a grower's license. We did serve a search warrant last year on somebody.
Good to know as I look at career options.
Yeah, that's right.
So just go
It's-
to your local pediatrician.
It's kind of big money, but we did actually have somebody and that they had, when we flew over them originally, they had 150 plants on their property. And then we flew over them a second time, they had 250 plants. They were madly trying to cut plants down by the time we got there to serve a search warrant. They'd got it down to just under 100, I believe. They had a license for themselves and they had a grower's license. So basically they were allotted up to 30 plants. And it was the first one, I brought the state team in for that. And that was the first, basically the first license where they had actually seen where somebody had gone through the process to get it so they could grow for themselves and for somebody else. Normally it's you go get a license, you go get a license, you go get a license. No idea where you even live. You've never even been to the property, but this guy's gonna try to claim that, you know.
But
he's
that's the
growing.
crazy thing. If you're gonna grow 250 plants, don't apply for a permit, and put yourself on the radar.
Yeah, and well, it's not a radar that we would ever see. So even at, it's basically they get the paperwork and there's no tracking on that paperwork. So it's kind of
So
difficult.
what is it? Is it just there for the state to collect $15 or something?
Yeah, I don't know what they cost. I honestly don't know what they cost, but
So is there a limit? Can I accumulate you know, you use the example of the two of us and I'm gonna be their grower because they can. Can
Sure.
I aggregate 10 growers or 20 that I'm growing for?
No, there's a limit, and it used to be, basically the co-op stuff originally, I believe, was 4 growers. So in other words, you could grow, basically 4 people could get together to
Could go
grow.
together.
And then that was changed, and I believe that, well, I believe it went away completely for a little bit, and then they brought it back. So that it's 3. So basically, anybody that's got more than 45 plants on their
There is
property,
no legal way.
yeah, you
unless you're a
can
commercial
pretty
grower.
much, yeah.
Okay,
So, and some of the ones that we do with marijuana, we just actually had somebody plead guilty yesterday on a case that I handled back in February, or March. It started in January, took me a couple months to work it. But the person had all the marijuana packaged up. They had created their own brand name. They had a medical marijuana license, but it was clear that it was not a medical grow. And so I consulted with legal counsel on that, and they said, if it's not medical, if they have the medical license and it's clear it's not a medical one, that it's a black market commercial, you take all of them. So we wiped all the plants on that. So,
I don't know, I would think that 15 plants would be more than personal use.
and that's, you know, the state, you get a lot, yeah.
An awful lot of poundage for one person.
Yeah, but well, you would figure for an outdoor grow, depending upon how much is used and what the use is, because sometimes they're doing the oils, and the oils, that's a whole nother, level of risk and stuff of that nature. But they get a lot of marijuana, how much of it's usable or whatever. And then if it's outdoor, they have a short growing season. So it's not, it's not like an indoor operation, which we've seen the indoor operations where basically every 90 days, they're pulling that plant and planting another one in its spot. So, but the ones that we've dealt with that, we had 8,000 or 9,000 plants in that last set that we took down.
Then we have the cartel grows in the county. Yeah. And the one 2 years ago, 28,000 plants.
Yeah. I think it was more than that, but yeah.
Yeah, generally that's turned over to, we get that big of a case, usually turn it over to DEA.
You guys look at PUD logs for
Yes.
how much energy, or do they, when they see something, they red flag it, send it to you?
No,
You look at theirs.
we have, there's some forms to request that information. And so there's a procedure for that.
Right.
But yes, we can get that stuff. So that's kind of generic on the drug stuff. So House Bill 1054 deals with tactics. That's what the Zoom conference call is on tonight. Senate Bill 5066, duty to intervene. So this basically establishes that if Bob and I went to arrest somebody, and let's say I start just punching this guy for absolutely no reason, Bob would have an obligation to interject himself, which the sheriff's office, we've had policies for years that did that basically required us to stop somebody from doing something wrong. But they passed a state law on that.
Well, let me add to that, Tim. If I refuse to report
Yeah,
that, I get decertified as well.
yeah. So there are some repercussions on that. Senate Bill 5055 deals with law enforcement officers specific for PERC, grievance, and arbitration panels. So there's some specific laws that took effect July 25th on that. And then they did come up with House Bill 1001 for grants to encourage candidates for law enforcement. They haven't funded anything, they haven't put anything in that bill, but they established this to basically kind of pave the way for them to attract law enforcement. And then Senate Bill 5135 deals with establishing a new law of unlawfully summoning law enforcement officers. So if somebody calls and basically files a false report, there's some civil action that the person that they're filing the report against can take. I will go briefly over 1310. took over House Bill 1054 real quick. So that's what tonight's Zoom meeting with Representative Rossbreaker is about. This basically bans chokeholds and neck restraints on suspects. We have not allowed chokeholds as long as I've worked with the sheriff's office. But neck restraints is kind of, we were trained in them. It's called LBNR. And it was kind of a last ditch, like you lose your gun and you're gonna lose your life. Here's some options you have. And so we did go through some of that. It's kind of disappointing that they took that option off the table. But given the media coverage and the public perception of things that happened back east, I kind of understand that one. This also came up with some stuff on canine teams. So initially, they looked at banning canines. One of the things that was brought up was that canines bite African Americans more often than others. And Deputy Gavin Marble from our sheriff's office actually testified before legislature on some of those issues. There's a big Zoom conference call and he was asked some questions specific on that. And he actually pointed out that dogs don't see color. Dogs are colorblind. So they see variations of basically gray, black, white, whatever.
I don't know, I had one dog that was a racist. I
I-
swear to God, I had one dog, if we were driving in the car, there was
Sure,
a black person on the sidewalk, that dog would freak out.
yeah,
So
yeah.
they can't see color, that's news to me,
Yeah.
because that dog was a racist.
I'm not an expert on that. I can just talk about what was spoken. So there was a lot more legislation or a lot more interest in banning canines altogether, and then at the end they ended up backing off of all that stuff. So restricts the tear gas use and basically the highest elected official within the county, and it specifically lists the chairman of the Board of County Commissioners, would have to be the one that would authorize the sheriff's office to use tear gas under certain circumstances. And I am aware that there are a number of lawsuits around the state that were already filed on that one. So House Bill 1054 also defines and bans military equipment, requires uniformed police officers to be reasonably identifiable, and then restricts vehicle pursuits and repeals previous guidance that they had on vehicle pursuits. So basically, we have to have probable cause for a violent, sex, or escape type of crime, or reasonable suspicion of a DUI. And there's some more specific stuff on vehicle pursuits, which is important that you guys know some of that stuff. So we'll get to that here in a second. But the other thing that this does is it law enforcement may not seek and a court may not grant a no-knock warrant. So we have not used no-knock warrants as long as I've been a cop, long before I was ever interested in going in law enforcement. No-knock warrants were never used. So let me get specific to the vehicle pursuit stuff, because those are things that are going to continue to come up for us. So as an example, if I was to witness a homicide and that suspect jumped into a vehicle and took off, I cannot initiate a vehicle pursuit until an on-duty supervisor authorizes me to do so. I have discussed our current staffing situation because we don't always have a supervisor on duty. We have a duty supervisor that is available to answer calls and things of that nature. In our union contract, we pay them like $1 an hour to answer their phone. Under the wording on 1054, that would not be sufficient under that law. So as we enter negotiations, from our standpoint, we're going to have to look at another option. Vehicle pursuit, limited. So a police officer may not engage in a vehicle pursuit unless all of the following is true. There is probable cause to believe that a person in the vehicle has committed or is committing a violent offense or sex offense. So the other exception is there is reasonable suspicion the person in the vehicle has committed or is committing a driving under the influence offense. So in other words, the difference between probable cause and reasonable suspicion is the probable cause, I have enough to arrest this person and take him to jail. Reasonable suspicion is I believe there's something out of the ordinary. I believe that I have a specific, a potential crime here. So the person is necessary for the purpose of identifying or apprehending the person. So in other words, if I can identify who this person is, then we have to determine, is it absolutely necessary for us to detain this person? Well, if it's a homicide suspect, they just killed somebody, that's probably a situation where we would need to pursue somebody. The person poses an imminent threat to the safety of others, and the safety risk of failing to apprehend or identify the person are considered to be greater than the safety risks of the vehicular pursuit under the circumstances. The officer has received authorization to engage in the pursuit from a supervising officer, and there is supervisory control of the pursuit. So the supervisor has to be basically on the radio and available to monitor everything that's said. If their duty supervisor, I know that there've been questions before, can they go, grocery shopping? Well, it's their time off. They're responsible for answering phone calls. So there are some stuff that we would need to look specific at, what would be considered having control over that pursuit.
That officer in the field.
Yeah, somebody in the field essentially monitoring that, so. So there's a different stuff, there's additional information related to the tactics and things of that nature. One of the things that stands out is dealing with the military equipment. So military equipment means firearms and ammunition of .50 caliber or greater. So, and it goes on to list some other stuff like machine guns and armored vehicles and things of that nature. In, I believe it's House Bill 1310. This deals with use of force, and these are where two laws are going to contradict each other. Let's see if I can read that. So we are required to provide alternative equipment to law enforcement officers. So basically, what we don't want to do is just give the police officer a badge and a gun and say, go forth and conquer. We want to provide him with other tools. So there is a requirement that we provide de-escalation training for our law enforcement officers. Every single officer or every single deputy in the sheriff's office has de-escalation training. They have at least 8 hours, which is required by the state. And because of the True Blood lawsuit against the state is required to have so many law enforcement officers in certain counties that have gone through the 40-hour crisis intervention training. 2 weeks ago, I went to that along with Deputy Mitch Kegley. Last week, we sent Sergeant Killian and Detective Jason Raytalk. We have a number of other members that have been through the 40-hour. So we are ahead of the game on getting everybody through this. It's free training. We just have to pay for the deputies' time, their travel, and like hotel and meals and things of that nature. The state does give us some money back to offset for like overtime covering for people to work the road and things of that nature. So we do get a little bit back from that. We are ahead of the game on that. But some of the other things that we are required to provide, they specifically list things like batons, tasers, they list less lethal shotguns, like the beanbag shotguns. The problem with that is a beanbag shotgun round is 0.781. So it's slightly over 50% larger than the 0.50 that House Bill 1054 identifies as a military round. So we're required to provide the shotguns, but we're not allowed to give them the ammunition. So we have had discussions about potential liability of not providing these to the deputies. We have discussed the potential liability for providing this to people. The legislators that wrote this have even come out and said, well, that's not what they intended the law to say. That their intent was to provide less lethal options for law enforcement officers. So some agencies have said, we're not doing it. Some agencies around the state have said, absolutely, we're providing the less lethal options. And so it's kind of been a toss up. What's going to cost the county more? We shoot and kill somebody, or if we, if we use a less lethal option to try to save that person's life. And so the sheriff has made the decision that we are issuing the less lethal options out to our employees, because our whole goal in law enforcement, aside from the enforcement of the law, is to save people's lives. And having less lethal options does save people's lives. When somebody's in crisis, these are options we can do. Under 1310, it changes what we can use force for. So in the past, and there's a lot of court cases that House Bill 1310 contradicts, but basically, if we had probable cause, we could use a reasonable amount of force to detain somebody. Under House Bill 1310, that is no longer an option. We have to have two, there's only two things we can use force for. If we have probable cause to make an arrest, or if the person is in imminent danger to themselves or others. So it's very specific about that. So it really changes stuff. So around the state, a lot of law enforcement agencies have said for mental health calls, if there is an imminent threat of danger, then we will go to the call. If there's a crime, then we will go to the call. We have taken a different position because there's a lot of other agencies that have said the same thing. People call 911 and say, my family member's in danger or in distress. I need some help with my family member. So we will look at that call. We'll still send somebody to that call. Go down there, see what you can do, because a lot of the mental health calls that we have dealt with in law enforcement, you get there and the person is asking for help. And it's saying, well, I don't have enough to detain this person, but there is no law out there that prohibits us from giving this person a courtesy ride to the hospital and getting somebody there. So we go, and a lot of that is just how you talk to those individuals. Sometimes when somebody's in crisis, there may not be an imminent threat of danger. There may not be a crime, but if we don't go, it can eventually turn into a situation where we do have an imminent threat of danger, or we do have a crime because they start assaulting somebody. So
I'm gonna stop you in the interest of time.
I could keep going, guys.
Anything else? Yes, yes, Karen.
I'd like to apologize on my request for the engine. I had some confusing wording in my item. I forgot to take the word jail out and put the word patrol in, so.
I already double checked it.
Okay.
Good
I
catch.
didn't
all right.
catch
I
that.
got it. I checked it. I did have one question.
Yeah.
I was going through this pile of bills and the most exciting one in there was, tell me about your rabbits.
Oh,
The gentleman that had the rabbits, he called, had a cougar, they had a cougar in the area. Called to have the hounds run out to look for the cougar.
Oh,
The hounds, of course, got detracted a little, and of course, these rabbits were in hutches. And they got excited and bounced around. The dogs never did bite one or take it away, but they injured themselves on the wiring or whatever in the cage. And very, I mean, he wasn't upset over the fact other than he just lost his rabbits, but he said, stuff happened. And I said, we need to make it right with you. I mean, it's because the hounds were out.
Right.
So that's the reason.
Yeah, it had the finish, but it didn't have why, so I was just
Yeah.
curious.
What time for turn or?
I'm working on. the
I talk too
LLC.
much, sorry.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't really think so. There's not, I'm sorry. I know you always do a nice job, so.
We gotta talk about union stuff next.
so.
Yep.
We will try to rein Tim in next time.
Well, there's so
We
much,
Generally would schedule more time.
there is so much in here.
We went over a couple of those earlier. and it was just-
Yeah, well, and the more you read in, the more you kind of shake your head and go, what were they thinking?
Yeah,
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, gentlemen, we don't exactly want a repeat of last Tuesday. We've got a Board of Health meeting this afternoon. Would one of you or one of your staff be available at the door to ensure that all people that come in this afternoon are wearing masks for a time?
So, and just so everybody's aware, I did not escort the group in last week.
I can tell them you're requesting. I have
So-
a feeling about masks myself, and I'm doing this as a courtesy on the board. Generally, I would not, but, you know where I stand on this stuff, so.
Well, my concern would be not only that, but that we make sure we are able to ensure a safe.
Oh, we're not gonna let anybody try to go toward you guys or anything. That's-
well, the problem with the unsafe environment was actually over there. We had civilians in the room that were not part of the protest. That were sitting right there, and our staff that was cornered in the corner couldn't get out of the room.
I was outside, I couldn't even get in the room, so.
I don't think it got heated, obviously, but I don't think it got to the point. If anybody would have started anything like that, hands on, yeah, they'd have been.
I did not feel hurt, but other people did.
Well, you can't help sometimes what people feel.
The issue is that we have public comment at 1 o'clock. The public expects to be able to come in a safe environment. Some people feel they're only safe if everyone is masked up. We had one individual that was here that left because there were people, she was going on an international trip and she had to fill out all the forms if you've been around and all this. And so that safety comes first. And that's why I was asking kindly if you or one of your deputies would be able to stand out there and ensure and hand out masks and ensure that only the people that come in are masked. And if not, we'll leave something out there for them to put their comments on, but we have to run a meeting and we have to follow the rules.
I think the difference too will be that's, last week was the board's meeting, public comment. The Commissioner Anderson is also referring to, we have a Board of Health meeting, which we are not the Board of Commissioners at the Board of Health meeting. We are Board of Health, and there are actually 5 members of the Board of Health. And so that also, a Board of Health meeting, given the environment that we are in, it's very potential that there could be folks that are agitated. And we have not had an opportunity. The Board of Health has not been able to have an opportunity. I coincidentally serve also as the chair on the Board of Health as to how we're going to respond to that, as far as what are we going to do as far as if folks are non-compliant. And so the potential certainly exists for people to be agitated. And I know I am all about folks having the ability to peacefully protest as long as they do not disrupt. I can be outside and I can protest on the sidewalk. I can't stop traffic on the road. I can't do any of that. The normal functions of whatever the activity is have to be able, the minute I'm not able to do that, that's not legal anymore, at least in my perspective, and it needs to be we need to have the ability to maintain order and to be able to run our meeting. At least from my experience, we were not able to do that last week. At least I was not able to do that. And I don't know what's going to happen, frankly. We have a schedule of public comment from a specific period of time that was far exceeded, and I would expect in the future, I mean, if there is no expectation now that we can ever impose any limits on anybody's free speech, then that makes it really difficult to be able to run a meeting when there's not, we had a public hearing scheduled for 1:30. We were unable to do that. We're able to move it, and we did it like we continued it to today at 1:30. Hopefully we're able to have our public hearing on the budget amendments, which cover things, regular business of the county. This meeting is the board's meeting to conduct business that the public is allowed and invited to watch, not participate beyond what is on the schedule as far as in an appropriate way that the board provides those rules as far as what that is. They can certainly watch anything we do, but it's our meeting to conduct the board's business, not as a avenue for folks to protest. That's not, and again, I'm all about protesting, but you have to follow. There are places and there's
And I would say I'd like to leave the door open to the public, but if we have another one of those scenes, I don't think the door will be open to the public anymore. Yeah. So.
Well, you gentlemen are running the board, so it's your rules. But I can tell you, I will not arrest somebody for not wearing a mask.
That was not what you were
What?
asked. You were asked to keep the peace.
And if I have one that's standing here without a mask, refuses, my keeping the peace is to prevent you from being assaulted or staff.
Or staff from feeling threatened.
Well, I can't get in their mind whether they're threatening or not.
You could have at least said, Bob, you could have said, calm down, everybody, calm down, state your case, but stay calm.
Well,
You
anyway,
didn't try.
I'd put a box out there with a mask. We'll be close by if it gets out of hand, if it turns to that. But you gentlemen run the board, you tell them to get out if that's your choice to do so. But they're not gonna get arrested by me for trespass or anything else. They're exercising their First Amendment right. And I know you guys don't probably want to hear that, but that's my.
So let's explore that a little bit.
Okay.
So no, I don't want to have a debate. I just want to have a clear understanding of the rules that we're going to be able to operate under. So I'm playing, I don't want to look back because that's back. I'm looking forward. So if today, because I am going to, I'm going to try to comply, folks, I will tell them what the rules are. I will tell them again what the rules are. And if they don't, I would suggest then that we go to virtual. So we will recess the meeting. We will go in our office. I'm assuming, I don't want to make it a big issue, but at some point, if this chambers are open to the public when there's public business going on. So if there is not a public meeting taking place, if we are in our offices, then the public really has any more right to be in this room than they do after 5 o'clock. I mean, the public hallway, of course, is open to the public as it is now. And so if that becomes, again, if people want to mill around in here, I don't really care. I'm not going to split hairs about it, but it's going to be difficult for me to conduct a meeting if I have people pounding on the door, raising a ruckus, doing anything out here that we can't do that. And I would hope that we could rely, is that acceptable to ask us to
Well,
clear?
I'd certainly go talk to them and tell them to write it down. At that point, they're kind of disturbing the peace.
Okay,
I don't have an office space anymore, so my documents are in this room. If I have to go attend a meeting in there, my documents are now unsecured to the public.
Well, then you lock the door.
Well, if they're in the room, we have to be able to get them out of the room. That's the problem.
Well, you tell them that it's your office,
Right.
you got documents.
And if they don't leave, can we call the sheriff to help escort them out of the room?
Well, obviously, if they're causing a real problem, we'd talk to them. But I just wanted to make it clear, they're not gonna get arrested for not wearing a mask.
I'm not asking for them to be arrested.
No, you're not.
okay.
asking for my documents to be secure.
Well, sure, you got a right to secure. But
Okay,
as far
hopefully
as
it's
the
all a
mask-
non-issue today
Yeah.
and we will,
As far as the mask go, I just put a box out there and a sign that says you must have a mask to come in.
That box right there.
that box with, I believe that's what that sign says, but.
All right.
All right.
Thank you,
Thank you,
sir.
sir.
Yeah, I just want to secure my documents, so thank you, sir.
All right. Casey, Rob? Something pleasant to talk
I have
about? Be better now than later. Schedule you for 1:30 if you'd like.
I think we're scheduled for an executive session. Go into executive session to discuss.
This is for you negotiations. Okay, we will go into executive session in accordance with RCW 42.30.140.4. This is for bargaining proposals, negotiations, grievance mediation, and or arbitration proceedings, all associated with collective bargaining. For how long? And
Always
before I
scheduled.
actually say that, we don't anticipate coming out of executive session. Do we have some action that we would not be? Okay, so I would anticipate that we won't go back into regular session until the 1 o'clock hour. So what I'm going to do is we'll basically shut the Zoom meeting down and then we'll be back at 1 o'clock and we will make sure there will be no proceedings that are not broadcast.
So we will start.
With how long?
removing people from
Yes.
participating.
I
anticipated
want
that-
Zoom closed.
Yeah, that's what I want.
I anticipated up to 30 minutes, but we do 15-minute increments if you want.
Okay, and we can extend if need be. Well, we will start then first with 15 minutes, subject to extension beginning. So I would invite folks on Zoom, come back at 1 o'clock. When we come back from
For
lunch.
all executives, I
Start
don't want to
process.
know.